consider myself an amateur historian. That's what keeps me interested. And I think that passion translates to people that come across it. And once they get over the morbid side of, you go through cemeteries, you take pictures of dead people, you stalk the dead. No, not really. I just, I like to learn about their history. Welcome to my favorite place on Earth. You want to see Fay Ray?
Sure.
From King Kong? She's right over here. I always read the temporary markers. You never know who's going to show up. What new people might have arrived. This is how you make the discoveries, which make this so much fun. There's Fay Ray, the original screamer, King Kong. There's another marker, temporary over here. Steve and Nancy Wayne. I don't know who they are. We are preservationists, historians, authors, as opposed to, actually, there's actually a scientific word for what we do. We're thanatologists.
Mm-hmm.
Thanatologist is the fancy word for grave hunter. Well, grave hunters, very important distinction. Not grave diggers, not grave robbers. We don't come out at night. I only occasionally wear black. It's not a requirement. Here's Adolphe Menjou, very distinguished actor. So we do this out of an appreciation for the history that's here and a love of film, because a lot of these people are actors and writers and producers. A lot of them are founders of the city of Hollywood who had nothing to do with the film business. There's John Huston. With his mother, Rhea Huston. So when people first hear, about this hobby, they think it's morbid or they think it's ghoulish, that we're, goth or, This was the weekend of our annual Hollywood Underground Dinner, 10th annual Hollywood Underground Dinner. About 60 people come from all over the country, all over the world to join this dinner. I happen to be the MC for the 5th year in a row. But they're all normal people with normal day jobs. You would never know that we share this hobby. That's what's so great about the internet. What's so great about Hollywood Underground is we were all able to come together and share the hobby with each other, share our knowledge, our resources with each other, and our appreciation. Before we found each other on the internet, we were all doing this on our own. This natural interest in our subject, a natural attraction to cemeteries. I don't even know how it first happened. She was a singer in a punk rock group. She had just given up alcohol. She was straight for the first time ever. She accepted a ride home from a drunken fan and was killed in a car crash. There's the Ramones logo. Dee Dee Ramone says, "Okay, I gotta go now." Now the grave is kind of barren today. By that I mean usually there's a lot of tributes left here for him. Mm-hmm. He draws all kinds of people, as you can imagine. There's always Ramones memorabilia here. There's lots of stuff. It's a fun grave to photograph. I've kept track of this one since he was first buried here when it was a temporary marker. Then we saw the concrete slab go in. We saw paper drawings of him here. The grave has developed over time, and now it's this beautiful marker. Nobody came to his funeral in 1919. Much hated in his day. Part of the reason he donated 3,000 acres to the city of Los Angeles so he could have this beautiful park, which now bears his name. People often mistake it, thinking it was named after D.W. Griffith, or worse, Andy Griffith. But it was Colonel Griffith J. Griffith, a true eccentric, the O.J. Simpson of his day. Tried to kill his wife. She survived. He believed she was conspiring with the Pope to steal his money. He stabbed her in the eye in Santa Monica at a hotel. But here he is, Griffith Jenkins Griffith, 1850 to 1919, the donator of Griffith Park. Darren McGavin is over here. He's recently marked. In fact, I don't have a picture yet of his new grave, so I'm going to get that today. Brought the tools of my trade. A simple camera, digital now. I was one of the last people to go kicking and screaming into the digital age. He's over here. I have tracked this grave from when he was actually lying in state at in the chapel on the other side of the cemetery. I wandered in there one night while he was laid out. And there was nobody there but his daughter. I walked in, saw that. We came over here and saw the freshly dug grave. So I actually saw the grave before he was in it. And we've tracked it since he was buried, and then there was a temporary marker for a long time, and now just recently, he died in 2006, February, so this is a year and a half ago. And just in the past 30 days, this monument has been erected. He's not buried with his wife, unfortunately, because there's some problem with the kids not wanting them to be together. Be careful what you put in your will. If you want to be buried next to your wife, make sure you make those arrangements. Anyway, right next to the building over here, we're going to see the grave of the very first actress or actor ever to be known by name to their public. Therefore, she carries the distinction of being the first movie star. Her name was Florence Lawrence. In the early days of film, they didn't credit the actors. They didn't want them to develop their own following because then they want to get paid more money. But the public started clamoring for Florence Lawrence. They wanted them some Florence. Hi. They come here. Let's see this double crypt. It says Mille on it. Cecil B. Mille. Rose on top of the crypt. Next to him is his wife, Constance Adams DeMille. And in the urns around him are various family members, daughters and such. Legendary director. First of all, he directed the first feature-length film ever shot in Hollywood, The Squaw Man, which was produced by Jesse Lasky, who's in the mausoleum over here, Abbey of the Psalms. They founded the studio that is now Paramount, which is behind this cemetery. He directed The Greatest Show on Earth. He directed 10 Commandments twice, so 20 Commandments. For a while I had the wrong grave. I was given bad information. As you can see, he still isn't really marked. It'll take us a while to figure out which one was actually him. That's part of the fun. From the very beginning, and I don't even know, again, how it happened, but cemeteries always called to me. I was always being drawn in. I just like to go in there and walk around and read the stones and try to figure out who was there and what kind of lives they had. And in Boston, they were Revolutionary War soldiers, they were historic figures, Paul Revere, John Hancock, Samuel Adams, the Boston Massacre victims, Crispus Attucks, Mother Goose, the parents of Benjamin Franklin. These were all right there in a little churchyard in Boston. I used to go in there and do rubbings of the graves, but I was just fascinated that these people were buried there 300 years after they lived. This is Virginia Rapé, by the way. She was the actress who died in a scandal that involved Fatty Arbuckle. He was tried 3 times and acquitted. Her death was most likely caused by an infection from a botched abortion, having nothing to do with him. She was brought to a party he was having at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco, and her death was trumped up by this woman who was a big publicity hound, and it was really too bad for him because it ruined his life. And he died just on the verge of a comeback as a director, not as an actor, but at the time he was one of the highest paid comedians in film, even more so than Charlie Chaplin. Interesting side note to that room at St. Francis. This happened in 1921. In 1950, in the same room, Al Jolson died of a heart attack. Playing cards with his friends. His last words were, "I'm going, boys, I'm going." And he did. Harry Cohen, the czar, as they say, of Columbia Studios, much hated, as I understand. There's a lot of jokes about when he died, that there was a huge turnout for his funeral, and somebody, usually it's attributed to W.C. Fields, said, just goes to show you, if you give the people what they want, they'll show up. Someone else said people were showing up just to make sure he was really dead. He was a much loved man. So there's Harry, I'm sorry, here, and his wife Joan. And again, a daughter inside the urn. It's directly mirroring the Mille crypts across the lake. This is Carol Burnett's grandmother. When she first started tugging on her ear at the end of the show, it was saying goodnight to her grandmother. Later it was for her kids. But Nanny raised her. She lived here in Hollywood. Very cheap apartments that are near here. This is the Hollywood Forever Cathedral Mausoleum. This is called the Court of the Apostles because of, obviously, the apostles. Very old building, a lot of history. I used to love to come in here when it was just all creepy and cobwebby, and now it's clean, you know. Here's David White, Larry Tate from Bewitched. And this bust of him, he's here with his son, by the way. Jonathan White was his son. There's his UCLA student ID card. It says David White as Larry Tate. This was a prop from the show. This show was on Bewitched. This bust was used on Bewitched. Here's a place I've been coming to for probably 30 years. I think I know every inch of the place, and yet I still, here in Westwood, I still make discoveries. I still find people I didn't know were here. Either people that just got buried here, or people that have been here all along that I just didn't know who they were, or I didn't know they were here. But here's Rudolph Valentino, all shined up nice. Used to be not so shiny, but this was a temporary crypt when it was put here in 1926. greatest entertainer of his day. When he died in 1950, he was the superstar of all superstars. Star of stage, screen, film. Famously uttered the first words on sound film in The Jazz Singer when he said, wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. Al Jolson. Died playing cards at the St. Francis Hotel, Suite 1221, where Fatty Arbuckle had his party in 1921, where Virginia Rapé didn't come away so conscious. Al was in the sarcophagus. The best part is the waterfall, which is visible to everybody who drives by on the 405 freeway, as you can see right there. So millions of people see this grave every day and don't even realize this is the grave of Al Jolson, the greatest entertainer of his day, historic figure in film, in show business in general. The Jazz Singer was actually based on his own life. These pictures have been here for a long time. Super Session, Blood, Sweat and Tears, Stephen Stills, Al Cooper. He played on Highway 61 Revisited, Bob Dylan's band. Played on Like a Rolling Stone. At the end of his career, he was scoring porno movies. He died of a heroin overdose in Chicago. I'd wanted to come here for a long time. I drive by it all the time. You see the Al Jolson waterfall out there. Everybody passes it on the freeway. And I was in the area one day on business, and I was done early, about 4 o'clock. Place closes at 5. So I came in this building to see Jack Benny and Eddie Cantor, and walked all around, and then it was about 4:45, so I knew I'd better leave, because the place was going to shut. So I went to the front door, and it was locked. It was bolted shut. As you saw, there's other doors here, so I went around to these doors. They were locked. I realized I was locked in. And I knew that if I didn't get out of here by 5 o'clock, I was spending the night. Now, I go to a lot of mausoleums. Most of them have marble benches. This one at least has couches. If I had to spend the night here, I would have been comfortable. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to spend the night here. So I started making a lot of noise, because I knew there were people out there, groundskeepers and stuff. I was banging on the doors, pounding on the door, looking for something to throw through the glass. And I was making a lot of noise. I was screaming, trying to get someone's attention. Hey, I'm in here, Suddenly I became very, very calm. I just looked around, and I found this little office door, which ever since has always been locked. I bet it's locked right now. And I just took a walk right here, and I found this door. It says Mausoleum Office. At the time, there was a phone on the desk. It's not there now. But I picked up the phone, and I dialed 0. And she said, can I help you? I said, yes, I'm locked inside your mausoleum. Can you please send somebody up to let me out? And she said, there's no phone in the mausoleum. And as we just saw, there isn't. But there was that day, and I said, yeah, there is, I'm on it. And she goes, oh, really, what's the extension? And I looked down at the phone, I said, it's 306. She says, I'll call you back. I said, okay, so I hung up and I waited, and I waited and I waited. I imagine she's running around the office going, is there a phone in the mausoleum? I just got the weirdest phone call. The phone rings, I pick it up, I said, yeah. She goes, where are you exactly? I said, I'm in a tiny office just near the front door of the mausoleum. She says, okay, go stand by the front door. We'll send somebody up to let you out. So I feel I had help that day. And that door has always been locked until just now, and this was years ago. I've been in here 1,000 times. Now the door's open, but there's still no phone in that mausoleum office. Want to see Neil Bogart, founder of Casablanca Records? He's no relation to Humphrey Bogart, but he named his company Casablanca because of the similar name. They gave us Kiss, Donna Summer, The Village People. Not many Jewish baseball players. Have been Sandy Koufax. Pretty much rounds it out, I think. Let's see now. Where are you, Dinah Shore? Here you are. Dinah Shore, loved by all who knew her. Now, what's interesting about this is only about 1/3 of her ashes are in this crypt. The other 2/3 are now in Palm Springs. 1/3 was with her ex-husband, George Montgomery. He died. His ashes are now interred with her ashes. Expensive real estate. It's all about location, just like any real estate. The ones lower down are less expensive. The ones highest up are less expensive. The high level, those are expensive. The couch crypts, the estates, couch estates, or whatever they're called, they're expensive. Beneath Los Angeles started as a book I wanted to do because I was taking so many pictures while prowling these cemeteries for so many years. People started saying, you should do a book. So the subtitle was Southern California's Graves of the Famous, the Infamous, and the Just Plain Dead. about 9 years ago, created a website which lives on and grows every single day. We started with about 50 photographs. We now have well over 1,000 photographs. And we add, several every month, about 5 or 10, sometimes more photographs each month, because I'm always finding new graves, finding new stories to tell. When we started, I wasn't even putting captions under the pictures. I just wanted it to be about the photographs. Made it more interesting by now adding captions and finding out more about these people and finding ways to tell their stories. And I'm proud to say now, after 9 years of shopping the book, which was what started the whole thing, we just signed our publishing contract last week. So Beneath Los Angeles will be published, hopefully, by the spring of 2009. I don't know what first drew me to cemeteries, but it's always quiet, as you can see, usually peaceful, and like I said, it's like walking through a museum and learning stuff and seeing stuff and being in close proximity to interesting people who, though they may be dead, they did contribute to our history and our development as a city and as a community. So I fancy myself an amateur historian. That's what keeps me interested. I found the first person in Hollywood forever was a woman named Highland Price. Highland Avenue was named after her. And who knows who she is? Nobody. But I found out about her, and I found her grave. My mother still thinks this is the weirdest thing ever. Even though I'm about to become a published author, she still shakes her head and says, "You've always been morose, you've always been a morbid kid." She still thinks that, I'm sure. You asked me earlier about encountering spirits or whatnot, and I just remembered one that occurred in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery where we were earlier this morning. Clifton Webb is in a mausoleum there called the Abbey of the Psalms. And some of these crypt faces, as you notice, can be loose. Sometimes they tip back. These not so much. Now at the time, there was always rumors that Clifton Webb haunted the hallway where he's entombed in Hollywood Forever. They say he used to haunt his house in Beverly Hills until they tore down the house. Then he started haunting the hallway where he's entombed with his mother. And so the crypt face was loose. You used to be able to tip it. It would tip in quite a bit, a few inches. Pretty dramatic. You'd tip it. So it used to be a fun thing to do, to tell people as you took them through here, because I take a lot of people through these cemeteries. People want to see them, and I would tell the story of how Clifton Webb haunts this hallway, and it's considered good luck to say hello to him and touch his crypt. They would touch the crypt, the thing would lean in, and they would jump, and it was a good laugh. So one day I was in there with quite a large group of people, and I'd done this a million times. And I was telling the story, Clifton Webb haunts this hallway, it's good luck to touch him, and so we touched him, and the thing tipped in, and at the exact moment it tipped in, a flower pot nearby fell to the ground, and a bird flew out and flew right over our heads at that exact moment. And all of us, including me, went, "Okay, we're out of here." And we definitely feel we had a visit from Clifton. It was called Tipping Clifton. That was the activity, Tipping Clifton. And we think this time Clifton was either saying hello or he was saying, "Stop tipping me, leave me the hell alone." And since that day, the crypt has been sealed up. You can't tip Clifton anymore. Jane Mansfield's lover and lawyer, and he was killed with her in the car crash in Louisiana that killed her. I find stuff like that just interesting. Sometimes the jokes write themselves. You see Morris Wasserman number 5, you just automatically go, where's 1 through 4? Who wouldn't think of that? Freeway's going right by here. We're going into the most remote corner, and there are 2 very famous people buried back here. Way in the corner of the cemetery. Nobody ever comes back here. It's a tiny little room, you'll see in a second. One was notorious, and one was notoriously funny. And talking about Moe Howard from the Three Stooges, and the gangster Mickey Cohen. Notorious mobster, ran LA. Amazingly, he died of natural causes. He was shot, he was blown up, he had every kind of attack, spent a lot of time in jail, and died of old age. Rita Hayworth was one of those discoveries, one of those days I was just walking around, didn't know she was here, looked down, there's Rita Hayworth. Gotta love that. I'm taking a million pictures, but you can never get enough Rita Hayworth. This is where Bela Lugosi is buried in his Dracula cape. And then right down from him, you start to see these Crosbys, Catherine, Harry Lowe, Wilma, his first wife, and here's Harry Lillis Bing Crosby. Lighting candles. That is the grotto. It's beautiful here. A lot of people in this one. Gary Cooper used to be buried here. He's been moved now back east. He used to move back against the wall there. Wife of Roman Polanski, victim of the Manson family in 1969. She was pregnant with their baby, who's here as the unborn Paul Richard Polanski. She's now joined by her mother, Doris, who started a victims' rights organization, the Doris Tate Foundation, and Sharon's sister, Patricia, who died of cancer. Originally, it was just Sharon and their baby. Over the years, in 1992, she was joined by Doris. In 2000, she was joined by her sister. It's one of the mausoleum. One that I have not been locked inside of. One of my favorite film characters of all time, Ray Bolger, the Scarecrow. And many people don't remember this, but I do. He was on the Partridge Family. He was their grandfather. The banjo-playing grandfather of the Partridge Family, Ray Bolger, song and dance man, actor. And Mario Lanza, of course, a famous Italian singer. Rumors abound about how he died, whether it was poison or was it really peritonitis, one of those mysterious stomach-related deaths. Some say he wouldn't cooperate with the mafia or something. You know, there's always stories. Here's Fred McMurray, his wife June Haver, her mother. Oh, which one of these would be her mother? That would be her sister, Evelyn. Maria is her mother. And then there's John Candy. Eddie Mannix, Toni Mannix. If you see the movie Hollywoodland, you'll see them portrayed by Bob Hoskins, played Eddie Mannix, and Diane Lane, played Toni. So he did a lot of cleaning up of scandals. He was the muscle man for MJ. And she was Superman's girlfriend. Toni Mannix, Eddie Mannix, our work here is finished. Another successful day at the cemeteries. I love days like this. It all just comes together. I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty. That's all, folks.